Clear-eyed, serious person claims there's no good argument for a wealth tax, proceeds to make shitty arguments against a wealth tax. It's lampoonin' time.
All right, let's hear them.
So here's the article. It's The Economist. I'm a subscriber. I like The Economist, but this one was a flop. Don't tax wealth, it says. Even the most sophisticated arguments in favor of doing so make no sense.
If you want a link to our sources, go to infohazard.show.
Most of them aren't behind a paywall.
That's true. Okay, so did you guys know that wealth taxes are back in the Overton window in Europe these days?
That's good news. When I have to flee somewhere, I hope I can flee to somewhere with the wealth tax.
So in France, for example, there's a proposal that's getting a lot of attention for a 2% annual tax on wealth over 100 million euros.
If you have 100 million euros and also 10 euros, then you'll be taxed 2 euros, or you'll
Correct.
be taxed. Okay.
Who are the rich French people this is going to affect? Are we talking about like cheese and wine barons, or the
Modern-day
founder of
bourbons?
Renault?
We're not talking about your average doctor. 100 million euros is what economists call an ass load of money, owned by only super thuggin' rich folks. So one example, Bernard Arnault, he's like right up there in the like richest person in the world race, which sort of fluctuates with the various stock markets. He's the owner of a bunch of luxury brands. Anyway, he has argued that such a tax would destroy the economy. So I think he's a very trustworthy and unbiased source on this. So this article in The Economist, why did it bug me? There's a genre where the clear-eyed, serious person argues for the status quo in a way that is dead wrong and just not very smart.
Those boots aren't going to lick themselves, my friend.
That's a little unfair. I mean, this is Bernard Arnault. You know, it's his boots he's licking. It's auto bootlatio.
I just want to kind of go through the arguments in here and just talk about wealth taxes and, poo-poo on this guy who's poo-pooing wealth taxes. So, wealth taxes face numerous problems.
That's a true statement. I agree with that one.
Right. And the ones that he calls out, they might raise little revenue. They could operate unfairly and inefficiently. Anyway, we'll dig into them. But as an aside, did you guys know there's already a wealth tax in the U.S.?
Really?
Yeah,
That's surprising to hear.
I pay it, actually. What I'm referring to...
have anything to do with home ownership?
Yeah, I'm referring to the property tax. A home is the largest asset that most American households have, and many municipalities and states charge property taxes, a tax on the value of your house every year. We already have a wealth tax. It just doesn't cover the things that really, really wealthy people have. It doesn't cover ownership in companies.
We could extend the wealth tax to ownership of companies or ownership of Bitcoin if we're feeling froggy. Like you were taxed on your mutual fund or whatever that you own shares of. It would still be attractive to own shares of the mutual fund if the rate of return was greater than the tax extracted.
Yep, I think that's right. In this article, there were a couple points. He actually made some arguments that make some sense. So let me talk about those arguments. First problem with a wealth tax. How do you value wealth? As an aside, for the American wealth tax, for property tax, it tends to be an assessor who, since you don't sell your house every year, they assess the value of your house. And they seem to be able to find a way, someone whose job it is to value your stuff so they can tax it. Assets can be complicated. I have two solutions to that. One is do it anyway, and the second one is hire an accountant.
Isn't that kind of the same solution? Like when you say do it anyway, how do you propose doing it except without an accountant?
Well, I have a trick where you don't need to hire any accountant. So here's the trick. You allow the taxpayer to put a value on their own assets, right? They basically, they do it themselves with the requirement that that when they do that, this becomes public and that anyone can buy those assets for that price.
Seems fair. Like you can either accept the government's valuation or you can make your own valuation, but if you do that, then you have to accept offers at that valuation.
But you have to accept offers at that valuation?
Yes.
So either you accept the government's number Or someone can just buy your house and you don't get a say in it.
But you do.
Well,
Well, you already just have to accept the government's offer on the value of your house, right? So there's two options, right? You can either do the current way that we do things, where there's an assessor who chooses the value, and things are the same as they are now. You pay your property tax based on the assessed value of your house. Or if you don't trust the government to value your house properly, you can value your own house, and the government will accept that and tax you based on that. But you have to be willing to accept prices at that value.
let's talk about like a rich person's assets, right? Like there's their primary residence, which an assessor should be more than capable of being within 5 or 10% of the actual value of that thing. And then there's the yachts and the stocks and the private companies and the holding companies and this and that. I'm so rich and fancy, my assets are so complicated, the assessor really truly doesn't understand, and they are overvaluing them, and so they're overtaxing me. It's like, okay, well, if they're overvaluing them, then you tell us what it's worth and we'll tax you that much, but then you need to be willing to put your money where your mouth is and accept an offer. If they're worth less than that, then you should be willing to accept that amount as payment for it.
Okay.
That's all.
I get more what you're saying.
Like if this was done systemically, if everyone is undervaluing their properties, then they are actually going to affect the market. Yeah. Anyway, that's just a trick. I'm not even like proposing that. I'm just presenting that as an alternative, a counter argument to the idea that it's just so complicated to value people's property, like that this is just blocking, that we can't do this. Here's another argument. The rich will move abroad. So, since all the rich people leave, there's nothing left to tax, so you don't even actually make any money on a wealth tax because all the rich people leave you.
No. Oh, no, don't do that. No, I love our rich people. No.
First the Bitcoin and now this? Oh, when will the horrors end?
Yeah. So, yeah. So that's kind of like the first argument is like, even if that's right, like...
Thank God.
Bye-bye.
I also would like to take a moment to call bullshit on this argument, though. So when the rich people leave the country, are they taking their factories and chemical plants, their domestic customers, their multinational corporations, and their mega mansions with them? Like,
Of course,
I don't think
they built
so.
them all with the sweat of their brow, dude. They worked hard.
Oh, but they built them in the U.S., right? the point is, like, yeah, they can get up and leave, but their wealth mostly can't. Your factory, for example, is still here. If you're a foreigner who owns a factory here, then you get taxed on your wealth that's here. And if you sell it to somebody, and whoever you're selling it to gets taxed on it. Yeah, and then another thing is that, right, the U.S. actually already taxes expats. We already tax Americans who move abroad, so rich people want to move abroad to dodge a tax. Like, that's going to be a problem for the U.S.
No, you see, they'll just totally renounce their U.S. citizenship over an extra 2% tax.
All right. So here is an argument that is compelling to me, except that it's indirect. And this is that Europe largely got rid of wealth taxes. So in 1990...
Yeah, and if Europe jumped off a bridge, would you do it too?
No. But if Europe jumped off a bridge, I'd be like, why did Europe jump off a bridge? So in 1990...
I'd do it. Where Denmark goes, I go. Tally-ho!
Okay, in 1990, about a dozen OECD countries had wealth taxes. So let's see, Austria got rid of theirs in 1994, Germany in 1997, Sweden in 2007, and France in 2018. So even France, where they're considering picking up a new one, only recently got rid of theirs.
Just like rich people got too powerful and then got rid of wealth taxes, or?
I don't know. And I think that I would have to research it case by case. And yeah, I mean, the reasons that I've seen given are basically the same reasons that this article makes against instituting a wealth tax to begin with. It was too complicated. They couldn't actually administer it, which it's possible to believe that some of these countries were inept in their actual execution of this. And so the actual revenues weren't that high. These are the reasons that I've heard cited. I don't know about the actual politics of each of these countries and what really happened. So this is the one that gives me some hesitancy. Both Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren had proposals for wealth tax in 2020 during their presidential runs. They think it can be done. This article, this whole approach just, it seems like a bit of a trope. The apologist for the rich, that they're all over the news networks. They're not very smart. Their arguments don't make sense. They're not in any better command of the facts than me, even though it's their job. I have a day job. They have no excuse. But what they do have is like a weird dogmatic dedication to protecting the status quo.
I think you maybe are misunderstanding their jobs, right? Like, I think that there are a significant number of these people who are not, in fact, doing the job they say they're doing and are paid propagandists for the ultra wealthy.
Yeah, I think this resembles some of like what we were talking about with just like the media filters. Like some of them are paid for their opinions, some of them are hired for their pre-existing opinions. And yeah, I think both of those things exist.
The famous quote, it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it.
And a couple more a couple more sleazy sleights of hand were snuck into this article. So first there's the wealth income switcheroo. So can you, maybe one of you guys could tell me, is wealth the same as income?
No.
Nope.
Hot damn. Boy,
Well,
I
we
mean,
covered it, but do you want to give any more explanation? Like, income is the amount you get paid to do something like a job, and wealth is the assets you own. Is that a basic enough explanation?
I think you nailed it. One thing that you'll see that these things are mixed up all the time. I think the most common way to mix them up is when someone is trying to make the argument that rich people already have a huge tax burden. They'll say the top X, like teeny tiny percent of income earners are paying an effective tax rate of 45%. That's the argument they make in this article. And of course, they're talking about income, the percent that they pay on their income, which is different than the percent that they pay on their wealth. And also this is a different they. The top 0.5% of income earners are like cardiac surgeons and even CEOs of medium-sized businesses. When we're talking about super wealthy people, a lot of them inherited, a lot of them have acquired for a long time.
Income is irrelevant. I mean, we've talked about it on this program. Like, we talked about like Elon Musk getting a payment package for some outrageous amount. Turns out he might get an even more outrageous payment package of $1 trillion, an amount that no human being has ever held in assets ever. Like,
Well,
but
what
yeah.
about like a Roman emperor who owns the Roman Empire, dude?
I know. You
Yeah, what
mentioned
about?
Elon has no slaves and thus would be shunned in Roman society.
Right. And even like if you'd say, well, okay, he owns a large amount of Tesla and Tesla is tax on its income. In 2024, Tesla paid $0 of income tax. There's a dodge for that with
Wait,
income.
so they're going to pay him $1 trillion even though his company doesn't make any money, dude? What the fuck?
Next up, the appeal to authority. In my view, wrote John Cochrane of Stanford University, economists should analyze tax policy based on incentives, not moral sentiments where we have little comparative advantage. Touché. John Cochrane.
If you shouldn't analyze tax policy based on incentives, how do you decide what you want to incentivize without morality?
Yeah.
Big think.
Right. Yeah. So many problems with that little quote from Mr. Stanford. But he's from Stanford, so, I mean, obviously what he's saying is right.
No one from Stanford has ever said anything morally questionable.
Wait, quick. All right, list of morally questionable shit out of Stanford. I'll go with Sam Bankman-Fried's parents are Stanford professors, and they, like, taught him all about tax evasion and all that shit. You guys have any good
The
shit on
Stanford prison experiment.
Yeah, oh yeah, that one.
I mean, this is a hard Jeopardy category, I gotta say. I don't think I have anything off the top of my head.
Elon Musk is a Stanford dropout.
This was the former president of Stanford, had to resign after it was revealed that he had falsified data in his research. Yeah, let's talk about incentives. Maybe they're talking about the increasing incentives that ordinary working people feel to pick up their pitchforks and start shoving them places they don't belong or burn shit to the ground. Incentives with a wealth tax. Currently, the way that wealth is being hoarded and the behaviors that are contributing to that happening, basically the financial incentive seems to be that you should steal from the masses, commit social murder, capture regulators, and hire lawyers. So that's the incentive. And wealth tax, if it takes away some of the gains from that kind of behavior, that sounds like a correction to the incentives in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And the other incentive I mentioned is the incentive that people who cannot get ahead despite doing everything right, playing by the rules, working hard, being smart, etc., being ethical, they are being disincentivized from doing those things by the system that is taking from them and exploiting
Seems like
them.
a no-brainer. Economics is all about incentives. Just disincentivize these things that we don't like. We can use that money on things we do like.
He makes another crappy argument. The continued support for a wealth tax is far from guaranteed. To which I say, so fucking what? Continued support for what policy is guaranteed? Like, yeah, times change. Society changes. You change your policy. All right, here's another BS argument he makes towards the end. The French public would enjoy poking plutocrats in the eye. Joy would be fleeting. It wouldn't raise enough money. It's not really about visceral joy of poking plutocrats in the eye. It's like self-defense.
Ha! We're taxing you for 2% of your wealth over 100 million euros, thereby completely crushing you. Oh, I'm so joyful.
Oh man, if the French public isn't the absolute worst case of like, could you imagine the French public doing something so barbaric to their rich as
Poking them in the
taxing
eye.
them by 2%? It's like, no, I can't imagine them doing anything worse.
Yeah. Well, speaking of can you imagine, he does mention how this is a slippery slope. And I mean, maybe he's talking about the French Revolution. No, he's saying, now it's 2%, but some other time, some other guy in some other context said that maybe it should be 8%. Another guy says that it should be 90%. So you gotta not do it. Yeah. So anyway, these arguments suck. Stop making shitty arguments, or I will smack you down in another episode of Info Hazard Tax the Rich Show. Catch you next week.
Yeah.